it's Janelle Waz, and welcome back to another episode of Waz Reviews. Yes, it's another game review of a game that would otherwise be lost to time if it weren't for sites like GOG, or for people like me bringing them up again. We're doing a little video game archaeology today, and being unearthed is Amerzone. Released in 1999, Amerzone was a point-and-click adventure game made by French company Microids and designed by Siberia creator Benoit Sokal. So, remember when I made a reference to Amerzone being the first Siberia game? You might remember a review I did a while back for the first Siberia game. No, I mean Siberia 1. Well, that was probably a bit of an exaggeration. Amerzone and Siberia don't follow the same story, or even the same cast of characters, but there's a bit of dialogue in Siberia 1 that makes a reference to the events in Amerzone.
Do you remember Alexandre Valembois and his peculiar bird?
Absolutely. His gift produced some very embarrassing long-term consequences.
A poison chalice indeed. It must be said, the situation could have been much worse, however.
Oh, yes, it could have been terribly problematic.
So while it's a stretch to say that Amerzone was the first Siberia game, it's less of a stretch to say that Siberia takes place not in the Siberia universe, but in the Amerzone universe. So, what was my experience in the jungles of the Amerzone? Well, it all seemed a little familiar. Let's hop on a plane and head out for an excellent adventure with Amerzone.
Yes, Captain. Eggs. And about to hatch.
But before I go further, make sure you subscribe to my channel. I talk a lot about Star Trek, video games, and whatever else I feel like talking about. And if you'd like to help support the channel, consider becoming a member. Be great to have you aboard. Our story begins with Mr. McFeely.
That's what you'll get. That's what you'll get. A speedy delivery.
Yeah, if Mr. McFeely was schnockered by 3 in the afternoon.
I gave him your letter the other day. He's probably read it.
We are not Kate Walker, but instead a nameless journalist. We're supposed to take a letter from a museum to an old man who lives up the road.
Letters from the museum? They always mean trouble.
Sir, the museum has told you multiple times it does not have happy hour, nor should it have happy hour.
Well, that's what I think.
We currently have the letter in our possession. Well, might as well see what it says. Not like that's legal or anything.
Suspicion of mail fraud.
Muséum d'Histoire Naturelle, Jardin des Plantes, Paris? Oh, I hope the entire letter isn't in French. Oh, good. Basically, the museum is declining a request from Monsieur Valembois.
That is from an obscure language known as French.
For a grant to explore the Amerzone in South America. Apparently, it's too risky. Pfft, some explorers you guys are.
Risk is our business.
But you know what? That's fair. We don't want to risk anybody's safety. But oh, it doesn't end there. The museum curator proceeds to mock this guy over a failed expedition in 1936. I mean, come on, a lot can happen in 63 years. I would like to warn you against the dangers of an undertaking in which adventurous fantasy supplants strict scientific rigor. Sir, you misspelled rigor. But, oof, that was rough. No wonder drunk Mr. McFeely didn't want to deliver it. He's more of a party mailman.
I don't think you're Mr. McFeely.
Mail call! Hey, is this your girlfriend?
Amerzone? Amerzone, too late for me. You must go for me, you must go. Take the egg back. Take the egg of the white birds back to Amerzone, I beg you, please.
Marked undeliverable. So, I guess there's only one thing left to do. Rummage through an old man's things. And this is where the bulk of the game's story is revealed, and it's done by reading through letters and journals of this guy, Alexandre Valembois. And in a lot of ways, this game is very similar to Myst in that the game's background and puzzle solutions are contained in in-game journals. It's certainly a very different experience from modern games where the information you need is often presented to you when you need it, but there's something about the way this game and other similar games do this that feels more realistic. Let's face it, in real life, you might not run into someone or even a group of people that knows everything you need to know to solve a mystery. You have to do your own homework and work the gray cells a bit. However, the complaint I have with this in Amerzone is that the journals and letters are sometimes written in hard-to-read cursive, and I can't tell if it's because of the sloppy handwriting or because of the game's resolution. So I dug around Valembois' home and pieced together his life story. Alexandre Valembois, born June 28, 1904 in Paris, a doctor in zoology with a degree in tropical biology, embarked on a journey to the Amerzone in South America with some college buddies, Antonio Alvarez, who is from the area, and David Makowski, a Jesuit. He even built a special vehicle to make the journey. It's a bird, it's a plane, and it's even a boat. Of course, there were some unfortunate accidents along the way, but they managed to make it to the Amerzone. During the trip, Valembois heard about great white birds in the area and became fascinated with them. But at some point along the way, he fell ill and was nursed back to health by a local girl named Yekomani from a local tribe, the Ovovalaho. During his time with the Ovovalaho tribe, Valembois built machines to help improve their lives, which included a weird bird flying machine, some pulley systems, and a machine to help them climb up the local waterfall, as well as falling in love with Yekomani. Having been accepted into the tribe, Valembois learned that the Ovovalahos had a whole ritual to hatch white birds from these really big eggs. Apparently, the birds wouldn't have been able to survive without the tribe curing the eggs first and delivering them to a volcano for hatching. Which kind of makes me wonder how these birds even survived as a species in the first place. And it also turns out that retrieving one of these eggs and putting it back is a whole rite of passage where if a young man succeeds, he can marry the one he loves. So Valembois hatches a great idea to steal the egg and make a name for himself in the scientific community back in Europe, leaving the village and the love of his life behind, breaking her heart in the process because she's probably thinking he's going to propose. Valembois goes back to Europe with the egg, just to be laughed out of the scientific community as a hoax. The Ovovalaho tribe was ruined because of this, and one thing led to another, and Alvarez ended up becoming a dictator who's determined to see the story of the white birds fade into mythology. Years later, Valembois managed to get his hands back on the egg, which was still alive after all these years, and he made it his life mission to return the egg and right the wrong he committed, only to be denied funds and die before starting his expedition. So now it's up to me to right his wrong and return the egg back to the Amerzone. So now we have an objective. We've gone from mailman to Amerzone Prime Delivery Associate. So let's start our journey as all Amazon deliveries start, by going on the computer. And in true 90s fashion, we have to insert a floppy disk into a noisy computer in a very dingy basement. Password? Oh, son of a... So I end up running all over this lighthouse house, trying to find a 6-digit password to log into this computer, because Alex over here isn't talking anymore, only to come up empty. Just the journals and a handful of letters. Wait, don't tell me! Son of a was dumb enough to use his birthday as a password.
I can't wait to see what next preposterous thing you're going to try.
We get access to an elevator with gun noises and an underground garage with a plane already built and waiting to set off for the Amerzone. But before we even get started with that, there are conditions we need to meet before we can even take off. Let's see. Going on a journey to see a legendary animal that may or may not exist, to fulfill an old man's dreams while traveling in a craft that he designed that's so picky that it won't take off until I do certain tasks. Why does this sound familiar? Yeah, Amerzone has more than a few similarities with Siberia, since they were both made by the same guy, Benoit Sokal. I guess Sokal had his favorite tropes that he liked using in his stories, but nevertheless, I picked up on the similarities pretty quickly. It's not mammoths, it's a white bird, and it's not a train, it's a plane, helicopter, boat, whatever. And there's an old man at the center of it all. 3 things are needed on the air and water craft in order for it to take off. Enough fuel, coordinates shown as details, and the egg. At the start of the game, we have enough fuel, but nowhere to go and no eggs, so we have to look around Valembois' house for coordinates and the whole point of the expedition, the egg. This is a good time to point out my biggest problem with this game. The puzzles themselves aren't that difficult. You're basically given everything you need at the beginning that will help you on your journey, and anything else like diagrams are easy enough to come by. It's easy to understand the logic behind the puzzles and know what you need to do. But a lot of these puzzles require an item that is so inconspicuous that it's easy to mistake it for another part of the environment. For example, the instructions on how to get to the egg are laid out before you in a diagram. Okay, that's the elevator, that's the platform I entered the garage from, so there's a hidden floor with a tunnel that I can stop at. I racked my brain trying to figure out if there was a control somewhere to stop the elevator, or maybe I have to time the elevator correctly, heck, even leaving the card at the top, something! You know what it was that I needed? Some pin that was lying off to the side in the dark that I put in a slot at the bottom of the elevator to stop at the hidden floor. Who would have seen any of this? I don't know, are these kinds of elevators common in France? Because this completely blew my mind.
You just blew my mind.
There are multiple puzzles in the game like this, and it makes the game harder than it needed to be. If it wasn't for that, Amerzone would be a very doable game with little to no walkthrough needed. As it is though, and I hate doing this, I had to rely on a walkthrough after a while just because it's so easy to miss items I needed. Breaking down a wall and pilfering the pilfered egg from its basement nest and loading it up into the ship, as well as entering coordinates gathered by this weird ship's wheel puzzle thing. It's time to take off in a highly experimental ship that has not been approved for travel. Sure, I might have risked my own life climbing into this thing, but man, look at that Jurassic Park view right there. Day and night I flew until... Uh-oh.
I told you we should have put more than $5 worth in!
We make a splash landing, and yes, the game is divided into 7 chapters for the different places you find yourself in. Now, I make it a habit in my reviews to go through each of the areas in these kinds of games, giving my thoughts on the different plot points. The problem with Amerzone is... not a whole bunch of plot happens in this game. It's mainly concentrated at the beginning, a little bit around the middle, and at the very end, with the rest of the game basically hopping around, following in Valembois' footsteps to the Amerzone. In Chapter 2, we crash at the same spot Valembois' ship crashed, except this time we trap some whales in the harbor.
Admiral, there be whales here!
But we're not tasked with releasing the whales because of zoological concerns. This old man here is upset that the fish aren't biting because of the whale and holds the key we need.
And then all the rackets you've kicked up.
So, I guess we better go make him happy. And the way to do that is to walk on the bottom of the harbor and cut the whale free. Which is a lot harder than it looks because it's easy to get lost down here. Moving in Amerzone is a lot like classic Myst. There are specific directions you can go, and moving is much like a PowerPoint presentation. I feel like I wouldn't have gotten lost so many times if I didn't inadvertently keep clicking on the same pathways I've seen before, ultimately going in circles. It's very maddening. However, using the directions in a walkthrough, I managed to cut the whale free, and luckily it didn't run out of air while I was lost because it escaped to freedom.
Yeah, it's coming back to me now.
The old man is happy to be able to fish again, and tells you some background information about Valembois' expedition that isn't exactly groundbreaking. And we get a key to open a chest with a disc in it. Which makes me question how that disc got there in the first place, because the last time Valembois was here, it was the 1930s and floppy disks weren't even a thing yet, but... After grabbing some coordinates from Valembois' original sunken boat and fueling up, it's time to jump to the next destination. In a helicopter. Ooh, nice Indiana Jones map. And we're running out of fuel again. Welcome to Puebla, under the not-so-benevolent dictatorship of one President Alvarez. We've got alligators, walled villages, and security guards who don't like answering questions. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's look around. Oh. I guess Valembois' decision to take the egg destroyed a lot of lives around here. This guy here is Dave Makowski, the friend of Valembois who didn't become a dictator. He remarks on how each of them contributed to this country's misfortune and revealed that Yekomani died of a broken heart after Valembois' betrayal. Part of me hoped I would meet her in this game. Well, time to pinch a little fuel and move on. Okay. Well, I've seen enough MacGyver episodes to know I can escape this cell with objects just lying around. Let's see. A cup and a weird bug. Yoink!
Yoink!
Alright, we're fueled up. Let's get the hell out of here. Traveling up the river and encountering the various animals along the way, which was the whole reason why Valembois went to the Amerzone in the first place, and the reason why the ship gets damaged, we arrive at a deserted Ovavolaho village. Oh, I am so getting murdered, aren't I? Whoever you are, I don't have any money! Lady, listen, I have the egg. Please don't hurt me! So, the state of the village, why there are skeletons lying around everywhere, why there's only this lady here, none of it's answered. All I know is I have to get this lady here to cure the egg. Which turns into a massive fetch quest of finding ingredients in the forest and processing them with the machines I'm assuming Valembois made.
Volao. Ovo. Volao. Volao. Volao.
And by using one of the local machines, Valembois' vehicle ascends the waterfall, and we're well on our way to hatching that egg. Well, I guess we're going on foot now, through the marsh, with whatever is swimming around. No, really, it's only a matter of time before an alligator gets me. Rainforest giraffes! I never would have guessed! Now, these guys are cool, and they even let me ride on them for a little while. And after climbing across the world's safest bridge, I think I'm getting close. Well, of course I'm getting close, because the villain is right here!
Do you really know what power is?
Having the time to sit on a stone chair all day without a cushion to maybe screw up someone's plans to hatch a white bird?
I won't let you go any further.
Okay. Yoink! Alright, it's the moment we've all been waiting for.
Shuttle Bay 2, stand by to launch the egg.
What the hell? What the hell? I don't think this is how birds hatch.
The story goes that the white birds never stop flying. They are born, they mate, and they die in the hot rising fumes of the volcanoes. These are but stories, people say. Stories that feed the dreams of the children who live in the Amerzone.
Wait, that's it? So I risked my life and boarded an unapproved craft to deliver some endangered species to its rightful habitat, possibly giving hope to the entire area, and it just ends on a monologue that tells me the stories of the white birds fuel the hopes and dreams of children. Like, I don't know what I expected, but that wasn't it! And that was Amerzone. Well, it's no Siberia, but it's alright. I don't know if I would go as far as to say it's a better Mr. Riven than Mr. Riven, but it does have that nice mist vibe that I dig. The places you visit are familiar in that they look like actual places on Earth, but there's still a sense of mystery that beckons you to explore it and find all its secrets. The graphics are also pretty good. Okay, the character models are horrifying, but the scenery does look nice with some allowances made for 90s graphics and resolutions. Even the basic plot isn't bad. At its core, this game is solid. But for me, it trips up in the story's pacing, the puzzles, and the ending. While it is a decent story, it's kind of dumped on you at the beginning with very few new developments arising throughout the game. I wish details of the story were gradually revealed as you play through the game. And the puzzles, while not that difficult, are made more difficult because the items you need blend into the background too much. I get not making the game too easy, and you don't want the items to be too obvious, but maybe a little more obvious than finding a random item in a dark corner of the room. The game also just ends and there's a lot of unanswered questions. What happened to the Ovo Vallejo village? How long was Alvarez sitting there? How does the protagonist get back home? But overall, Amerzone isn't a bad game. And I paid a whole 49 cents for it on GOG. You can't even get a lottery ticket for that. For 49 cents, you too can go on an adventure that'll take you into the heart of the Amerzone. To deliver a Prime package that's 63 years late. So what do you think? Did you ever play Amerzone? Did you love it? Did you hate it? How does it compare to games like Mr. Riven? And what are some of your favorite point-and-click adventure games? Please, leave comments below and discuss. As always, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Waz Reviews. If you like what you see, why not give my video a like and subscribe to my channel? Tell your friends! Until next time...
Shuttle Bay 2, stand by to launch the egg.